Shalom Saints, welcome back to another episode of Upper Room After Hours. Much obliged for you to be joining me once again. But by the grace of God, there go I for another episode. Thanks for all of your contributions and feedback with regards to our previous episodes there on the body of Christ. Here at After Hours, it's my opportunity to dive into all manner of things, topics, and areas from a biblical perspective. And so I hope you enjoyed that those previous insights. I think this episode we're going to get a bit more back on track in terms of perhaps more of the fringier elements of the faith and current events. And I'm quite excited to delve into this area in particular. It's not uncharted territory by any stretch. However, it's just a subject and an area which piqued my interest. And like with a lot of advancements and subjects, I don't necessarily have a beginning, middle, and an end with a nice conclusion, bow tied at the end of it. This is, how can I say, more of a thought experiment and just a sharing of a couple of elements of things that I found quite interesting, and just wanted to share it with you guys and see what you think. So with that being said, today's episode, YouTube has a great way of just like throwing stuff my way where I'm like, that's really cool. And this initial video sparked I guess a combination of intrigue and reminiscing in terms of a technological context of I guess how quickly and how far things have evolved in a really short space of time in terms of technological advancement and what the potential spiritual applications could be. And so I think for starters, we'll start with the initial video that I saw and that got the cogs turning. And if anything, it's just like as a moment in time, it's just a fascinating insight into how things have developed. So we'll roll the clip and then we'll just go with it. So again, I appreciate your patience and just walk with me as we go on this journey of meditations and musings and see where it takes us. So this is from the BBC television show Tomorrow's World. For the younger viewers out there, particularly from overseas, you may not be familiar with this, but back in the day, Tomorrow's World was a television show which showcased technological advancements and things within the medical field, technology and all of that stuff. And this is actually from 1994, which probably sounds like people walking around scrolling in caves and using papyrus to communicate. But for me, 1994 doesn't seem that long ago, but it's actually, long time. But anyway, so this clip is from 1994 and it's, Are You Ready for the Internet? So this is a delve into before the internet really like kicked off and the possibilities of what was to come, which with a bit of hindsight is actually like super freaky. But yeah, we'll roll the clip and we'll go from there.
Imagine a world where every word ever written, every picture ever painted, and every film ever shot could be viewed instantly in your home via an information superhighway, a high-capacity digital communications network. What that would mean is you could transform your home into a mammoth interactive entertainment centre with the odd stock exchange and shopping centre thrown in. It sounds pretty grand, but it all comes down to computers communicating. And in fact, that's already happening.
I mean, I don't know if this will get flagged up because it's BBC or something. I hope not. I don't think so. I think it's like live broadcasting you need a license for. I presume this is, as it's pre-recorded, it's all right. But even just off the bat, I'm thinking about like how mad online gaming is. And when she says about imagine this world of entertainment in your own home and gaming, and it's like, wow, it's literally like a $1 billion industry where children growing up like, I want to be a gamer. Whereas back in the day, it's like to be a gamer was unheard of. It was just, it's fairy tales. And the explosion of that over the last 20 years is absolutely ridiculous. And then she mentions there like briefly about shopping, and you just look, obviously you're thinking about Amazon straight off the bat, and you're like, wow, you can have pretty much anything that you can imagine, both legal and illegal, like delivered to your door within, like 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. So it's like, just we're 10 seconds in, and it's like, oh gosh, things really, really have sped up.
On something called the internet, that anyone in the world with a computer and a modem to connect it to a telephone line can subscribe to. There are over 20 million people connected up, and one person in particular I know is connected is the American President Bill Clinton. And I know that because I used this computer to write to him today, and I've already got a reply from the White House, and here it is. Right. Thank you for writing to President Clinton via electronic mail. The President is committed to integrating this dynamic medium.
It's not the first time that we've had an interest into the emailing of a Clinton, is it, really?
Into the White House. And it goes on to give some details of his government's policy to encourage the building of information superhighways. Now, I can't electronically mail our Prime Minister, John Major, because he hasn't got a modem. And I can't find out what his government's policy on information superhighways is because it hasn't got one, at least nothing beyond the usual thing of leaving it to market forces. But you can do more than just send messages on the internet. There's loads of useful information in here. You can get news, recipes, and I found this satellite weather map in there. And there are interactive services as well. This is a shopping centre, and here it says it's just off the information superhighway. That's its address, and inside there's a.
Could you imagine even like speaking in this lingo just in general day to day? Like, yeah, so I've just received a package from the Amazon company off the information superhighway. It's like just the language, an electronic mail. Man, we're
flower shop, and it shows me the picture of the flowers I can order and tells me how much they cost. Then all I have to do is tap in the address I want them to go to, and of course I have to give them my credit card details to pay. And there's even some stuff about us in here. Let me just find that for you, because we've just put some details on the internet about tonight's programme and some pictures as well. It's all good fun. But what limits the potential of all this is that it's relatively slow. You can't play a video down this. And in fact, most of that stuff we've had to receive in advance. That's because copper telephone lines are really designed for people to talk down, not for computers. But with an information superhighway built with high-capacity fibre optic cables, you're not limited to shifting around text and the odd picture. You can send high-quality sound and video as well. So when are we going to get all this then? At the moment, regulations restrict what services can be offered by phone companies, cable television operators, and so on. But in America, for any company who's prepared to invest in an information superhighway, there's a new law which means they can transmit anything they like on it: video, music, telephones, data, the lot, as long as they let other people provide services on it too. But it's not just a license to print money. The companies will also be compelled to connect every classroom and library free of charge, so society stands to benefit as well. Here in Britain, though, restrictions...
it just comes to mind in terms of linking in this notion of benefits, convenience, in terms of a transaction of privacy, and then into dependency, I guess, is what we're going to be looking at loosely on this episode. This dependency and a joining of a system or a group of people with a technological advancement. So just, I guess, bear that in mind for this little ramble.
Still apply. BT, for example, isn't allowed to do cable TV, but they're developing some interesting ideas to get what they can out of their existing copper phone lines, like video on demand. We've got a setup here to show what they're aiming at. The idea is, from the comfort of your armchair, you'll choose whatever video you want, and it'll be played down your phone line to your own TV. It'll not just...
This was literally mad. Again, growing up, you had, for the most part, 3 channels, then on to 4. So this is pre-Sky, pre-satellite cable TV networks. You had 4 channels to choose from. And at that point, you have to like tune in at the time that the programmers said that would be on, and you would have to be there at the time to watch it at that time, and then wait a week for the next episode or installment to take place. Because at least at that point, like, if you are going to be glued to the TV, there was an element of like patience, whereas now obviously with streaming services, you can just binge watch hours of stuff. Whereas then, at least, like, this concept of on-demand TV, watch what you want when you want, was such a foreign concept. And again, it's not necessarily casting shade on what people are watching or how much. It's this this element of speed and having what you want when you want instantly.
Just be movies, though. There'll be other TV programs too, like this travel program I've selected here. Now, the other thing is, because it's interactive as well, say I was wondering where he got his suit from, it'd not only tell me that, but I could even buy one here and now via the inevitable home shopping option. Armani, fancy that.
The funny thing is, I only intended just to play the clip as some sort of, but I can't help myself because this is just so mad. Like, now you can't differentiate between an advert and real life. Like, how many influencers now in popular culture have been like disciplined or fined or reprimanded for selling products on either social media or YouTube, but then haven't actually distinguished clearly enough that what they're doing is an advert. So again, this blending of the lines of what is an advert, who's being influenced, and what is actually either a product or a TV show. At least then, again, it's like, here's the TV show, the adverts are coming up, we're going to try sell you some stuff, jobs are good in. And now it's like, people can't tell the difference between a brand and a person because it's just amalgamated and merged into one. I mean, from a marketing perspective, it's genius, but in terms of defining reality, I could go in so many angles with this. It's ridiculous, but like, so many people are trying to emulate what they see via social media, and it's all based on nonsense. It's literally like nonsense. It's not real. This makeup, this perfume, this whatever it is, it's like, it's a facade. And unfortunately, because of generationally, these kids are just being brought up on it. They can't differentiate between real life and reality, real life and fiction. It's heavy. Anyway, try and rein it in.
But this video on demand is a tricky thing to do without the extra capacity of the fibre optic cables. I, for one, will be impressed when the real thing's up and running down phone lines. But it could well be the first taste most of us will get of what'll come rolling down the information superhighway. It's ironic that it'll come on old phone lines, but it could stay that way unless Britain develops its own vision of what sort of information superhighway it wants and how to get it.
So before we crack on, like, nothing's speculative. This didn't just happen and it's like, oh, we've got the Internet of Things, and perhaps if we got these super highways, and maybe this could be a thing of the future. It's like, no, the military are way in advance with what's being used. The government know what's coming up. All of the legislation, all of the, resourcing, and then you've got programming of people ready to receive new advancements, which is a job in itself, because a lot of people were fiercely opposed to such a proximity to information and private data that was necessary in order to roll out all of these advancements. So it took a lot for this to develop to the point where we're at today. It didn't just happen. It wasn't an accident. And, I'm in danger of looking like some kind of old man Luddite who hates technology. And it's like, I'm all for using technology for the kingdom and all of that. But if you were to say, like, do you want to just get rid? Like, I would have, like, let's scrap it, because this is not... We know that the end goal with all of this is the singularity of the beast system, the hive mind, and the integration of humanity with a technological advancement, a server, a matrix amalgamation. We know all of that, but it's quite interesting because we're living this in the minutiae. We're living these details out in real time. So it's like, we know the end goal, we know where this is heading, but we're still having to go through it, and it's a really intriguing thing. So that was then. Fast forward to, again, this may be old news to some, but obviously I've been doing the other series, so not really been able to get into it. Fast forward to modern day, and we've got everyone's favorite brand, the Vision Pro goggles. If you haven't seen in the news and generally, maybe even in real life, people wearing these, I don't know. Fast forward to today with these goggles, and it would have been easy just to, like, right, it's Apple, new product, let's just hate on it, But I just thought it'd be cool to throw up some context in terms of, like, how mad these things actually are. We could have probably done like a walkthrough in terms of all of the steps that we went through to get to this point, but that's a very long episode. But with that being said, now, I mean, with Apple, like, you've got what was the price of the first computer ever sold? 666, like, all of that, forbidden fruit logo, like, the clues are there. The clues are there. However, I think there's a new, what's the word? There's a new, I guess there's a new level to this, with these goggles. And anyway, for those who may not know what they are, let's just get a little intro into what they are.
This is easily one of Apple's craziest, most radical, possibly dystopian products of all time, and I have a lot of thoughts here. Like, I've been using it for about a week now. There are some parts of this thing that are absolutely incredible, and some other parts that feel weird or borderline unfinished. There are all kinds of new technologies, from a new operating system to infrared eye tracking to virtually reconstructed versions of you. I feel like there are so many actually new things that you have to understand in order to get a sense of what this headset actually is and what it does. So I'm going to break this down into two parts. This video is all about using the Vision Pro. It's everything I've learned from the past week of wearing and getting used to this thing every single day. But I'm also working on a more wide-ranging, possibly more existential review video. But let's just start with the more hardware fundamentals, right?
Right, so this video, this gentleman, again, I hadn't come across him until I'd seen the video, Marquise Brownlee. He's got like 18 mil subscribers, like, he knows what he's talking about. don't know any more about his channel than what this video offers, check out the video, because it's about 40 minutes long, but it goes into his review of the product and everything else. But I think for the sake of time and the fact that I would imagine a lot of people know what it entails anyway, want to get into some of the more like, as you mentioned, the existential applications to this product. Now, this next clip, I think, highlights the I guess we could say the assault on the senses. We'll watch the clip and then we'll roll into it. So it's titled "Working on the Vision Pro."
Real workflow might look like for the Vision Pro. See the Mac screen right here? By the way, full hand occlusion, which looks really nice and smooth. Messages, Slack, another Safari window right here. Keyboard works just fine, like that. And also, my mouse will go over here, and I can go ahead and type right here. And as I type, I can see a little preview. I'll show you a couple more things. Got the messages again. Got music set up here. Big screen TV set up on my wall. Gordon Ramsay showing me how to cook above the stove. Notes right here for some groceries. Can walk around freely. Here's what it looks like when it's on. Hey, how's it going?
Oh, hey, catch.
Thank you. And as we walk around the house, everything stays pinned exactly where we left it. And that's it. Let me know if you have questions.
So what I wanted to bring in that clip is this augmented reality principle, right? Of not only just having imagery available to the viewer that doesn't exist in real life. It's just to the individual, and you can't see in real life. Just in that principle alone, I think is it's pretty strong. And then we've got this idea of multiple areas of imagery and projections into the brain and everything else starts to really thicken the plot. Now, let me just preface this whole thing by saying, like, I am by far and away no neuroscientist. I have a very basic grasp of how the brain works. But, you know, like everyone else who's probably on this walk, I'm intrigued by a lot of principles about the human condition and how things work from a creationist point of view, and the disruption, inversion, and ultimately the destruction of the human condition and body and what God has created, and how the enemy is using that not only to bring people further away from God, but ultimately into the beast system and a separation from salvation, essentially. I think because that's when you're getting into the realms of transhumanism, the singularity, and this inhabitation of human bodies with a system that exists beyond the veil. Anyway, so it's obviously a fascinating concept. You have a company that's based in Silicon Valley, which is obviously synonymous to technological advancements, the history of how advancements are actually gleaned, because a lot of these ideas are not just plucked up out of thin air. They have been harnessed, utilized, and mined out from beyond the veil using different means, whether it be, drugs, whether it be just general enlightenment. Like, these ideas don't just come from nowhere. Obviously, those that are spiritually minded will know that. So with it being funneled in this direction, it's like, okay, so what is taking place here in terms of this amalgamation between man and machine? And first of all, I just wanted to look at, before we get too deeper into the application, is like the effects of this. Like, what is going to be potentially the effects, either like sociologically, psychologically, physiologically, and spiritually, you know? Now, there are many TV shows and movies that have depicted this dystopian amalgamation. Just off the top of my head, films like Lawnmower Man was a classic. This idea of the emergence of man and machine. You've got Ready Player One, which was done within the last few years, which is a great depiction of people living in a modern time, but living online vicariously through avatars, whilst the humanity was in a denigrated state. Like, there's so many of them. But are we now witnessing in real time the beginnings of this degradation? So let's have a look at this article. Simulations, harsh reality. So just wanted to look in terms of like real quick. So AR, VR, mixed reality headsets also frequently cause what's known as simulator sickness, a suite of uncomfortable symptoms that include nausea, headache, dizziness, and eye fatigue. Enduring even low levels of simulator sickness could impact people's quality of life, activity level, and productivity, which is one reason people worry that people might try to rely on these devices for their day-to-day work. Then there are potential impacts on memory. In one 2014 experiment, professor of human-computer interaction, Dr. Frank Steneker, at the University of Hamburg in Germany, spent 24 hours alternating between 2-hour bouts of VR use and 10-minute breaks. Throughout the study, Steneker became unsure what was real and what wasn't. Several times during the experiment, the participant was confused about being in the virtual environment or in the real world, and mixed certain artifacts and events between both worlds. The research paper says similarly, one 2009 study found that VR use can cause children to acquire false memories, even though image resolution and quality in VR was far worse than 15 years ago. The audio-visual display is getting better and better. Therefore, I am pretty sure that virtual and real content will continue to merge, Steneker says. Despite his findings in the 2014 experiment, he envisions a more positive computing future in which these tools beneficially replace keyboards and touchpads. Immersive digital worlds may also affect how well users think and socialize, potentially influencing how they work or learn. In the presence of a virtual human character, people wearing augmented reality headsets perform better on simple cognitive tasks, but worse on more challenging ones, according to one 2019 study. In a separate experiment in that same study, researchers found that people wearing AR devices felt significantly less socially connected to the people around them who hadn't donned headsets. So, and I use this word like in the context of what it means, and this is going to make people retarded. Like, it's literally going to slow the development and the functionality of people's brains and cognitive abilities because of this, this principle of living extended periods of time online on the information superhighway and, living their lives. I mean, we've seen snapshots of it, like I said at the top, with regards to gaming, streaming, basically living a vicarious life online, whilst in reality, you're just like you're really leaving a lot to be desired. And it's a very curious principle of, living your life as an avatar in a different world where you can control people's perceptions based on an ideal that you have of yourself. It's like the ultimate catfish in it, like all the time. And we've seen this crossover like in real life with stories of like, dating situations, or even just in general, like people trying to present the best versions of themselves, possibly ones that don't even exist, through an online persona, which again is like a massive middle finger to your creator, saying, well, you're not good enough. Like what you've done is not good enough. I need to like do this times 10. Anyway, so this principle of people's ability to function as we've been designed and intended to is going to be ebbed away all the more rapidly. Trying to look if this is worth looking more at. Yeah, I mean, this is all stuff that you probably know already. It's inherently isolating to wear a virtual or mixed reality headset. In-person collaboration becomes more challenging when workers wear headsets because it's impossible to show anyone else what you're looking at or to share a screen unless additional layers of software act as mediators. That's just basic interaction with people. Like, it's bad enough when you think you're talking to someone, but they're on hands-free and they're actually talking to someone else. Like, Miller sees these devices as extraordinary tools, but he warns that they also carry enormous potential for counterproductive distraction. He says he treats his smartphone like his shoes by leaving it at the door when he comes home, which is probably good advice. Augmented and mixed reality devices could further exacerbate the problem of divided attention that many smartphone users already encounter. So if we take that principle of a phone and all of the negative aspects that come with that, like times that by 100 on the principles that we're seeing now, and then who knows what that will entail as we go further down this rabbit hole. So bearing in mind that this is all relatively new. So if these things, which is Apple, by the way, if these things have become an extension of us already, however, I can put that down, I can leave it, I can turn it off. Well, I like to think so. And that's separate from me. That's something. But once that becomes part of you, it actually becomes physically connected to you. That's a whole different proposition. Like, we're getting into the realms of the principle of being a cyborg or a robot. It's when that, and obviously there's a lot of speculation with regards to the mark of the beast and everything like that, and what that will entail. But these are just interesting steps and developments. We've gone from the internet superhighway, a place where you could potentially buy stuff and watch things that you want, into, a headset that we could pop on and off, but could potentially have extremely detrimental effects on people, both short-term and long-term. And then we've got the development of the Neuralink, literally implanting chips into your brain. Again, done under the guise of altruism and helping and facilitating good things, but ultimately in the wrong hands, it will lead to terrible, terrible stuff. So let's shelve this principle of the short-term, long-term effects in terms of, this kind of like, well, it could just turn us into like, a mess. But, we can do cool stuff with it. Now, as I started looking, I'll refer back to this, to that original video where you could see, let's get that back up. One moment. Where we're looking at the multiple we're looking at the multiple layouts, and it got me thinking with regards to, let's go back. I'll do. Right, so I wanted to, this piqued my interest, this principle of being able to see an image whilst seeing reality. So I'm projecting an image whilst seeing an image of reality being projected. And for all those say that it's a simulation and all that, just suspend your theories for a second. And it got me thinking with regards to, okay, now I say this with a disclaimer. I'm not going into New Age philosophy. I'm not talking about awakening your chakra or your third eye, any of that stuff. Like, I'm really not. You can't. It's hard to deny the design and the functionality of what a pineal gland is or anything else like that. It's there. Like, biology suggests it's there. However, a lot of these things have obviously been hijacked and utilized for New Age practices. Forget that. What I want to focus on is this principle of a projection of an image within your reality. So, for example, if you have a memory or a thought or an idea, I literally can take that memory and I can project that in my field of view, in my mind's eye, but whilst I'm still looking cognitively at my area, my surroundings. Okay, no one else can see it. No one else can view what I'm viewing, but yet I could visualize like my dinner that I had 2 days ago and it's there in front of me. Or, you know, I could be imagining, right, I want to build a house and this is going to be the layout. I can tell you I can show you, I've got the bird's eye view and like all of this projection of your imagination. Okay. Now, it's a fascinating topic within itself. Why God gives us the ability to imagine is a fascinating principle. Now, it says in the Word of God that, only Yah's counsel stands, right? So we have all of our thoughts and imaginations, which in a percentage is probably about 3%, if that, comes to fruition, right? So as believers, we're trying to align our thoughts and ideas with the Word of God and His will for our life, okay? So I just want to just put that out there. This isn't about manifestation. This isn't about creating your environment. This isn't about accessing your third eye. This is about an ability that we have where memories, thoughts, and potential outcomes can be viewed, right? Now, this is what I believe is the crux of this. I told you you're going to have to walk with me. So walk with me. I feel that this is an imitation or a copy of what that is, right? So it says that Satan cannot do anything original. He can only copy or invert. And for me, I believe that this is at least an inversion, at best a copy, or a complete hijacking of what God has already given us the ability to do. So it's not enough to just be able to like look at a screen, go on my laptop and my phone and see these images in a time that's arguably bad as a consumption level as it is. But now we have a device that gives us the ability to project an image almost from our mind's eye in an augmented reality. And I mean, on the face of it, that might not sound like too big a deal, but I'm thinking this is the first major step commercially of this principle. So what is it going to lead to? Now, I've often wondered, and again, this is probably more of an indication of how strange I am, and I don't know if anyone watching this has the same sort of line of thoughts, but it's like, how do I have this ability to be able to access a memory, both good or bad, or have an idea and be able to kind of almost see that without compromising what I see in reality? And I'm not talking about hallucinations. I'm not talking about a breakdown of, how your brain's working and seeing things that aren't there and, schizophrenic. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a healthy ability. And again, whether you're creative, whether you're a builder, whether you're trying to remember your shopping list or whatever it is, like majority of the population have this, it's not a sinful thing to be able to like go, right, I wonder what this birthday card is going to look like. What am I going to write? And then there's this relationship. And it's a bit strange to meditate on, but I can't help but think about these sort of things. Anyway, I'd see an imitation of this, right? Now, if we look, there is already in our brains, there's an area called the hippocampus. And I told you I'm not a neuroscientist, so do your own research and correct me if I'm wrong. But until then, this is the best I'm offering, right? So the hippocampus is a section in deep in the brain. Actually, funnily enough, it looks like a seahorse. It's like in the shape of a seahorse. Now, this area is linked to your spatial awareness and accessing memories. So off the bat, you can look at, how I'm able to navigate the space around me, to take steps, to walk. All of that stuff is linked to this. And again, this notion of like, right, I've already got my own iCloud storage system going on here. Like, I'm able to go, right, 1994, tomorrow's world, boom, and I've got it. Like, it's there. The database is set. That's a meditation in itself. Like, where is that iCloud being stored? Anyway, people would advocate that, like, we don't know that much about the brain. But again, with advancements in technology and everything else, like, we're starting to know quite a bit about the brain now. And it's fascinating to be able to Google this and go, right, well, how am I able to project? And so this area, the hippocampus, that's responsible for the ability to, access your memories. Right, the hippocampus and memory, insights from spatial processing. Again, there might be some people who are just like, I really don't care for this. Like, I'm not bothered, but that's fine. Anyway, damage to the hippocampus in humans can cause profound impairments in long-term episodic memory, but the precise functional contribution of the hippocampus remains the subject of several competing theories. Electrosociological studies in rodents have characterized the firing properties of place cells in the hippocampus in great detail. Place cells appear to represent where an animal thinks it is located in an environment relative to environmental boundaries. Acting cooperatively, place cells encode specific environments, performing both pattern completion and pattern separation. Again, that makes me just think of the article we read previously where people using these headsets were having difficulty to differentiate their environments between what was real and what wasn't. Right. A new model of hippocampal processing that is driven by properties of place cells provides an alternative to existing psychological theories, at least in the spatial domain. This model proposes that the hippocampus is needed to impose a location from which to retrieve and construct a coherent mental image of an environment. The mental image supports the online maintenance and manipulation of representations of the locations of objects and features in an environment. So this is almost like your ability to identify what things are, where they are, and how we've managed to store that data to be compass mentis, to like, oh, that's you, that's my wife, that's this thing, right? But it's the mental, this idea of a mental projection, a mental image, which I'm particularly fascinated by. The model suggests that episodic memory will always be hippocampus dependent if it is associated with rich mental imagery of an environment. Other sophisticated long-term spatial and non-spatial representations can be acquired, stored and retrieved independent of the hippocampus. However, the hippocampus is often needed to mediate between behaviors that allow such learning to take place, such as when learning a new route. The model further suggests that the hippocampus is required for both short-term and long-term memory for some types of information, for imagining complex visual scenes, be they real or fictitious, and more for the recognition of scenes than faces. Recent experimental evidence from studies of the effects of damage to the hippocampus in humans supports all three of these proposals. Hippocampal processing beyond the spatial domain cannot be explained by the model, but several theoretical positions have been advanced to address the broader role of the hippocampus in mnemonic processing. So, without being too technically minded about this, for me, there is a part of the brain that has already been made so that we can project mental images that we can see, that no one else can see, which then either helps in terms of memory retrieval, whether it comes to, where did I leave my car keys? Right, boom, 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 there we go. Or whether it's that ability to visualize a piece of art, a design, something that may be real, may be fictitious or not, that's neither here nor there, but I can access this place and then boom, it's there in my peripheral vision. Now, the mind's eye, by definition, is the mental faculty of conceiving imaginary or recollected scenes. So a mental picture is conceived. So this idea of being able to project a mental picture in a healthy way. Now, again, from a spiritual standpoint, I think this is why the imprint of sin is so... why the Bible specifies so strongly against certain sins and certain things within the human condition not to do, because of this access to data, this the way the function works between our bodies and our memories is like there are certain things that you despite salvation, despite receiving revelation of God via the Holy Spirit, all of these things that we're familiar with, it's like there are things which I'm sure every believer can attest to that they wish they didn't have a memory of or didn't have an imprint of this thing of a mental projection, whether it be any number of transgressions, abuses or whatever, and praise God that we are washed by the blood of Yeshua and that we do have remission of sins for the things that we do, and that love holds no account for the things that we do. Praise God for that, because this system that we have completely obliterated in our previous lives, as it were, no wonder God says, like don't do these things, right? Because they're going to be embedded. And when you start looking at this element of how the brain works, it's like no wonder like we need to stay away from certain things and guard our gates and protect our temples for the indwelling of the Holy Spirit, because it's been compromised. And that's just from a personal point of view. Now, with that being said, I'll just have a little look, concentrating more again on this this mind's eye. And again, I can imagine that would scare a few people, this description. Oh, the mind's eye, it's witchcraft. Like, I personally don't think it's sinful or transgression to be able to recall a memory or project an idea or something and then utilize that. Anyway, this is just a short video, and again, it kind of concentrates on those that don't have this principle. I want to say it's aphantasia or something, where people can't actually visualize images in their head or imagination. And so there are like alternative ways in which the brain does it. Anyway, I think this just illustrates what I'm trying to say with regards to mental projections.
Picture what life would be like if you couldn't picture things. Say somebody puts a lump of clay in front of you and wants you to sculpt whatever you want, but you can't construct an image in your mind of what you want to make, so you can't sculpt. Or maybe you're reading Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone for the very first time, but all the descriptive scenes are just lost on you. That first portrayal of Hogwarts, the skin of the troll, or the look of the Quidditch pitch, you can't picture what the words are describing. Or maybe your significant other calls you and you
I wouldn't picture it because I wouldn't read that garbage.
realize you don't know what they look like. All of these things are symptoms of a neurological condition that has recently been described for the very first time. It is now undergoing its first major study. It's called aphantasia, the inability to visualize things in your imagination. It's almost the opposite of pareidolia, a phenomenon we talked about a couple weeks ago. Pareidolia is just a trick that the mind plays on most of us when we see things that aren't there, like a face in a pancake or a tiny woman on Mars. But aphantasia is like the reverse, where a patient lacks the so-called mind's eye. Accounts of the condition go back more than 100 years, but it was only named and identified last month by Dr. Adam Zeman, a neurologist at the University of Exeter, after media coverage of one of his studies revealed that the phenomenon may be more common than anyone thought. Recently, Zeman published a case study about a patient who awoke from heart surgery and found that he no longer had the ability to picture things in his mind. Discover magazine then profiled Zeman's work, and soon he was contacted by nearly 24 people who said they had the same symptoms as the heart patient. But most of them didn't know that there was anything different about them until they read about his research. One subject, a 25-year-old man from Ontario, is not only unable to picture things in his mind, he can't conjure up smells or sounds or tastes or any other sensations without experiencing them directly. Another patient, a physician in Wales, has no visual memory and can't remember what any objects or people look like until she sees them again. Now, this is where I'd normally talk about what causes aphantasia, but of course, we don't know because it was just identified a month ago. The process of visualization is very complex because it involves most of the major areas of the brain, so it's hard to pin down where a syndrome like this might start. The act of seeing is processed by the occipital lobe at the back of your head, for example, but whether or not you actually perceive, recognize, or remember what you see depends on what's going on in a number of other parts, including the parietal and temporal lobes. Now that Zeman has enough subjects to study, he'll be analyzing their sensory skills, their life histories, and even their dreams at night to see how their brains can tell them about people, places, and things without being able to imagine them. And this research is...
Right, so there's obviously like a procedure within the brain that is able to process what's being seen visually, what's actually being processed within the consciousness, and that mixture, and that's a whole different world. But I just wanted to touch on this highlight of our innate given ability to visualize mentally, and obviously what he's talking about, those that can't do that, that's an anomalous minority of people that, where there's cases of people who aren't able to do that, but that's definitely an exception to the rule. But what I'm looking to highlight with this is this concept of an imitation and a copying of what's already been given to us. So for me, it's like we already have the headset. Like the inner man, the spirit man is in there. And what we have in order to navigate reality, the challenges of life, is already been given. And that's enough. But for some reason, it isn't sufficient for some people or companies or even spiritual principalities, arguably. So what I'm suggesting and advocating here is this mixture of these two worlds ultimately converging to a dependence. So it's already speaking of what it's like when people don't have this ability. Now, what I'm suggesting is that through the use long term, either with this specific technology or an advancement of it, thus comes further dependency on simple functions like, where are my memories? Like, rather than just going, boom, here we are, uploaded from, you know, a good source into my brain. And now I'm going to depend on a headset or a third party to be able to remember things that have taken place, maybe in this reality or in the reality this online in this other space that doesn't really exist in this, you know. Am I going to need this machine to be able to remember who I am, what I did on certain days? Which is kind of true already, because most of the time when people say, oh, what went on in February 2021, like I have to look at my photos on my phone to be able to go, oh yeah, that was that time then, da. So like it's already there, it's happening. And more, I guess more suspiciously and more nefariously is this ability to project imagery in real time, because our brains already change what actually happened in terms of how memories are presented in that mind's eye. Okay. And even in our projections of thoughts and ideas, what appears in our head may be different to what actually comes to pass or what actually happened in the past, right? So we have to be careful about how we check our memories, because it's like some people might remember stuff differently, right? And then you get into a prolonged conversation, so we say, an impassioned conversation about what actually happened and took place before one of you goes, actually, yeah, that was the thing, right? But the dangers here is that through deep fakery, through AI stuff and all of this fuggery that's going on, depictions of reality and what happened can be changed and then uploaded and accessed via these, whether it's going to be a headset in 5 years' time or glasses, a contact lens or a mark, who knows? And it's like, nah, that never happened. This happened. And you've got a absolute plethora of opportunity, whether it's, I'm sure, again, this could already well be taking place, whether it's blackmail, whether it's corrupt judiciary decisions, whether it's control of a population, who knows? But yeah, I just am deeply, deeply disturbed by it. And I think you can already divide the population into two camps of those that would wear one of these things and one that wouldn't. And you're going to have people that won't do this because of they're just not into it. You're going to have people who are going to have physical aversions to it. And you're going to have people going to be like, it just looks stupid and I don't want to be walking around wearing one of these things, which are all valid points. However, I think even from a spiritual perspective, you can see the foreshadowing of what these things are leading to, where you're just like, nah, I'm good. You wear your little space goggles and have a good time. For me, I'm good. So I just think this is a fascinating teeing up of what's coming down the pike. And yeah, I just wanted to throw out there this idea of a replacement of the mind's eye, a copying of that, and ultimately a denigration of it to the point of dependency through technology elsewhere. Like, you literally need the system, you need the cloud, you need the internet in order to project thoughts, feelings, ideas, and emotions, because they're not actually going to be ours anymore. They're going to be coming from somewhere else. And obviously with AI, with ChatGPT, all of this stuff that's taking place, we're seeing like a soft convergence of that already. It's just like what's taking place now is it's incredibly rapid. So I hope that wasn't too much of a weird little jolly into the forest of freakiness. As ever, let me know what you think. Am I just doing myself a disservice of advertising just how weird I am by thinking about these sort of things? Or is this something that you've considered as well? Am I off the mark? Is this a foreshadow of things to come? As ever, let me know in the comments, get in contact, and let us know what you think. That was the mind's eye and what's taken place. Thanks for being with me and watching. As ever, like, comment. If you haven't subscribed already, do the thing. A special mention to Rob. Thanks, Rob. Amazing testimony off the back of what you watched with the evangelism series. It's truly touching to know that what's being done here actually has effect in real life, not just online. So it does warm the heart that these things do help other people. So that's great. And as I mentioned previously in the last episode, hopefully we got some things lined up for this show in particular in terms of what I'm hoping to present and show. So please keep tuning in. And as ever, from our house to yours, shalom. Yah willing, we'll see you on the next episode. I hope this reaches you and yours well. Shalom, God bless.